Elizabeth Warren basically is Rabbit from Winnie the Pooh. She just runs around worrying about everything, and she has a plan for her garden. And she's irritating. I mean, I'm sorry I said it yesterday. I will say it again. She's an irritating human being. Amy Klobuchar is not an irritating human being. This is not about the sex of the person I'm speaking about. Amy Klobuchar is not an irritating human being. Tulsi Gabbard is not an irritating human being. Both of them, last I checked, were women. They self-identify that way. So that's all that matters these days. In any case, Elizabeth Warren, again, she's wearing well with the media class, but I'm not sure this stuff is going to wear well with the American public. I mean, listen to her talk. So they ask a question on stage. How many of you would abolish private health insurance? Understand, no one wants private health insurance abolished in the United States. The number of people who want private health insurance abolished in the United States, it's in like the 20% range. No one wants this, which is why when this question is asked, only 2 hands go up for abolishing private health insurance. Bill de Blasio, an actual communist, and Elizabeth Warren, a wannabe communist, who used to say that she was a capitalist and used to talk about the glories of the free market and how we make that free market work better. That was her sort of pitch. Well, now she's run all the way to the left. Why? Because she's trying to head off Bernie at the pass. She feels like if she can cannibalize Bernie and then eat his desiccated old body, then she will take over his wing of the party. Now, maybe that's a good strategy for a primary. I don't know there are enough voters there, but it's certainly not a good strategy for a general election. You think this won't be an ad? You think that Donald Trump won't be able to say, Elizabeth Warren wants you to lose your health insurance? Because she does. That's what she's saying right here. 177 million Americans, over 90% of Americans are happy with the health insurance that they currently have. Okay, or at least they have health insurance. Okay, well over 90% of Americans have health insurance, and something like 70% of all Americans have privately provided health insurance. Okay, well, here is Elizabeth Warren raising her hand when asked if she would abolish private health insurance. So everyone who's listening to this, you, me, all of us, we wouldn't have private health insurance. We'd be forced into the Medicare system, which is already underfunded, overburdened, and would quickly run into the bankruptcy numbers extraordinarily fast. I mean, it will be bankrupt by the end of the 2020s anyway. So I guess we can accelerate that and make it bankrupt next year by throwing a bunch of people onto it without properly funding it. And then I suppose we'll have to cram down on doctors who they can care for and who they can't. That's the other half of this. And there are folks on the left who say, well, doctors voluntarily take Medicare right now. Right, because they can choose not to, or they can choose to do so. If Medicare is the only system, that means that Medicare is the sole bargaining entity with doctors. And that means that the government can cram down basically whatever they want on doctors, and then doctors will be forced to take it, or they'll be forced to drop out of the doctoring business. And that's effectively what Elizabeth Warren is arguing for here. She's not arguing for a public option. She's not arguing that you should be able to buy government health insurance or use government health insurance as an alternative to the private markets. A proposition I think leads gradually and inevitably toward nationalized healthcare, but which is not nationalized healthcare. She's arguing for the full abolition of private healthcare in the United States. Good luck with this one in a general.
We're going to turn to the issue of healthcare right now and really try to understand where there may or may not be daylight between you. Many people watching at home have health insurance coverage through their employer. Who here would abolish their private health insurance in favor of a government-run plan? Just a show of hands to start off with.
Okay, so no one else on stage would abolish their own private insurance to take a government plan. Bill de Blasio would, because that dude is happy to mooch off the government all the time. Elizabeth Warren is a cynical lady. And so what she is doing there is trying to head off Bernie at the pass. In fact, during the debate, she suggested that she, like Bernie, is for Medicare for all. It was a pretty obvious appeal. And that wasn't the extent of Warren's extremism on the stage. This is a lady who is solely concerned with knocking Bernie out early and then pivoting to the middle. But there's one problem. There's a thing, and it's called video, and it exists now. And 30 years ago, you could do this routine where you basically lied to the American people in either the primaries or the general. Now, you ran to the extreme, and then you shifted to the middle for the general election. But in today's day and age, what you say in the primaries matters. Most of the quotes that people have from President Trump occurred during the primaries. The primaries outlive the primaries. They didn't used to, but they do now. So when Warren is asked about gun confiscation, and she basically signals that, yeah, she might be interested in having the government come into your house and take guns. Is this going to play in a general? I have some serious doubts.
Do you think the federal government needs to go and figure out a way to get the guns that are already out there?
What I think we need to do is we need to treat it like a serious research problem, which we have not done. Okay. Guns in the hands of a collector who's had them for decades, who's never fired them, who takes safety seriously, That's very different from guns that are sold and turned over quickly. We can't treat this as an across-the-board problem. We have to treat it like a public health emergency. That means bring data to bear, and it means make real change in this country, whether it's politically popular or not.
Okay, so again, she avoids the question because the actual answer is yes, I would try to confiscate guns. She could just answer it, but even Elizabeth Warren understands that she can't say that one out loud.